So should I start again?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Tomás Miranda. This is my final presentation for practicum, Seminario y Práctica, primary education. My teacher's name is Professor Patricio. And the object of study selected for this study was the implications of group activities and students' distribution in students' participation during class. So, first of all, a little introduction over the why and how did I select this subject of study. First of all, the main aspect I was focused on was the individual versus group work, because this school in general uses the group work as a normal basis for the teaching for the classes, all the courses, all the subjects. Not only English, not only mathematics, but all the classes are given in the basis of using group work. And using individual work only for formal assessments and some specific tasks or when the methodology or the planning of the class involved some individual aspects. Therefore, the question that arose was is participation of the students directly related to the distribution inside of the classroom. The context of the school is 6th grade of the context of the class was 6th grade of the Miguel Cuchaga School, which is located in the Puente Alto district of Santiago, Chile. It is a subsidized school, and the main aspects to have in consideration regarding this study were that some of the students inside of the classroom were diagnosed with cognitive impairments, with mainly borderline skills, and some other students with psychological impairments, as was the case of a student with schizophrenia, diagnosed with schizophrenia. We have some problems with him during the practicum. And that some of the students also, many of the students, have suffered from different levels of domestic violence. Even some of them were not living with their families, but in Senate houses. Regarding all these aspects of the problems that are involved in this class, I found this quote very significant, was that having this in consideration, it becomes very important that the teacher has to be able to deal and to determine all the needs of the students in order to create a suitable classroom environment for the students, in order to be able to support, to orient and select the correct affiliations, to achieve a good communication and to be able to direct the students in a proper way. This corresponds to an issue in the 2011. Regarding the data collection materials and the information and how it was analyzed using a triangulation of information. And for this, the data collection materials used were direct observations of the practicum, inside of the practicum, that were as objective and as basically, the observations were, they tried not to participate of the events as much as possible. As the observations were in order to have the observations as objective as possible. Direct quotes taken from the theory, citing Ushioda, Brewer, Vygotsky, Skinner, and Chomsky. And finally, a close-ended questionnaire, which had to be set, created, and then had to be validated through an extensive process, which followed a 7-step process, from the creation up to the validation of the process, which included the participation of 3 experts, which were asked to verify and to give opinions about this instrument in order to be modified or to pass it through. The instrument The final instrument was a closed-ended questionnaire, which had 5 questions regarding the students' perceptions of their own feelings about the different aspects that are involved in this kind of methodology. This illustration, this table, shows how was the final questionnaire. Even though it is in English, the real presentation of the instrument for the students was in Spanish. Also, the instructions given to them were in Spanish in order for all the students to be able to answer the questionnaire clearly without feeling discriminated by being picked to ask the questionnaire or by not being picked to ask the question, to answer the questionnaire. Therefore, also one of the characteristics of this closed-ended questionnaire was that the students were asked to answer anonymously. They were not asked to put the name or any other information, but the answer that they felt more keen to relate regarding the different questions. The contributions of the study were selected different. I try to segregate them in the 3 aspects that included novelty, feasibility, and relevance. Regarding the novelty of the study, well, there are very few studies considering this methodology in the Chilean context, as the normal basis of the teaching in Chile is based on individual work, and group work is only used as a tool for specific tasks. The other way around as it is used in the school. The feasibility basically is because of the direct access to the students, and also that the classes and the school permitted the use of this methodology all day long. So it was possible for me to use another types of methodologies as individual work or other techniques, so as to contrast these 2 methodologies in order to have better observations of how the students reacted to the different aspects of our techniques. And regarding the relevance, the contributions for the further implementation of this methodology in the Chilean context, as there are very few studies. I think that this kind of study may allow further noticing of the student, the teachers, and also fostering them to practice and to use this kind of methodology more than it is being used today. Then I was asked, I was given an objective, a group of contents and a learning objective based on the mega-loops. So this is the objectives. I was like listening to oral texts, applicating strategies to support the comprehension. For example, making predictions, making connections between previous knowledge, relating text with images, and focalizing on keywords. Yeah. So the activities that I would use and how I attack these objectives. I select these activities. First, using previous knowledge to make predictions, giving the students images in the form of dividing the class in groups, so as to give the students images for them to relate these images to their previous knowledges, making predictions of what they see in the images, or what they think is going to be the listening activities. Because, sorry, I forgot to mention that this objective study is related to oral comprehension or listening. So the activity, the main activity for this purpose will be listening. So the pre-activity will be using these groups and images so as to students to predict what's going to be listening about. Then the whole class will be presented with the keywords of the listening. This first part of the activity, the group work and the whole class activity, are related with as Jet says, that at this level, at this age, students are in a concrete thinking stage of knowledge development. So using images to relate the knowledge, the previous knowledge to something more concrete as images would be very useful for students to develop their knowledge. Also using the keywords as presenting them with images or relating with images, or using the word to write the words so students will have something more concrete to analyze and to understand the words. Then the individual work, the individual part of the work will be listening to an audio, another track of a conversation between friends. This is related to, this can be related, sorry, to what Vygotsky said about the importance of the group work and collaborative, the collaborative development of knowledge. As students are presented with a conversation between friends, the topic of the conversation will be related to what students like and dislike, or like or are more keen to, in order to encourage them to participate and to be more foster the further connection of the students with the new topic. And finally, the group work. Group work activity will be checking predictions. That is also related to the Vygotsky theory of collaborative work. And a mix of individual group work, which will be a puzzle activity, in which students from each group will have to move to another group so as to talk with the students in order to generate ideas and concepts about these preconceptions and the previous predictions they have of these images and stuff. This is related to both of the images before, the images and the collaborative. And these are my and that's it. Sorry, it was here. Sorry, I forgot. The limitations and as positive regarding my strengths, as was mentioned in my Metacognitive report, the capacity of generating different activities appealing to the students' likes and dislikes has been selected as a strength, as I have been able to connect with the students and to select topics and objects that are related to the students' lives, and they have been very willing to participate during the activities, as they have shown as it has been shown in the collection of the information using the questionnaire and observations, that students are very willing to participate when they are in groups. As one of the limitations or weaknesses regarding this type of activities is that using groups and movement between groups, having students moving from one group to another, may be very complicated, as students tend to lose the line of work. As they have to move, they distract, and probably there will be some kind of difficulty to organize them again. But as this kind of activity involves students' lives and students, as they are used to working in groups, it is easier for the teacher to use this kind of activities. As a challenge for this kind of activity is seeking and looking forward activities and topics that are very keen to the students, so as for them to be willing to participate without the teacher being forcing them to pay attention to the activities.
So could you please show the first slide?
The first slide?
Right. Help us know that. First one. Title. All right. You mentioned the implications of group activities. You talked about individual group work on one hand, but it seems that it's a missing aspect regarding the distribution. you say something about it? The distribution of the students in the English class?
The distribution of students?
What do you mean by that? I didn't understand.
The thing is, students work in groups, but also they are setting groups in the classroom. Even when they have to work individually in the class, they are setting groups. But I didn't mention that like collaborative work because they are not working in this methodology of collaborative working. They are setting groups. There are five or six groups inside of the classroom which are used for the classes, for all the classes. So that's why the implications of group activities and students distribution. Because sometimes the students are asked to work in groups as the whole group, and sometimes they ask to work individually, but stay in the same groups. They have to be able to. The thing is, the students distribution sometimes when they are working individually may affect, and that's what I wanted to prove. What are the implications of having students working individually but setting groups, as they tend to speak with each other, and sometimes this kind of distribution may have the preconception of the teacher that, oh, if I have students working in groups, set in groups, working individually, they won't work because they will start talking, they will distract their peers and stuff. So that's where the title is the implications, because I didn't want to mention also the positive or the negative implications. I wanted this to be as objective as possible.
You may have a seat. Tomás, you mentioned that the validation process from the creation of the materials had 7 steps. Can you mention them in general terms? How did your instruments change after the validation process?
Okay, try to
No, step by step.
Yeah, but the main, in general terms, first, of course, the questions have to be selected. They have to be referred to the object of study and the question of the research question. So, having these questions, the thing is, firstly, the study was related more to behavior. In my ideas, how I was trying to conduct this, was related to behavior. The behavior of the study, not the motivation or implications of this distribution that was modified before. During this process of creating this questionnaire, the thing is, selecting questions for measuring students' feelings in a close-ended questionnaire was quite difficult because the first idea was to have this as an open-ended questionnaire, but having students with limited cognitive skills or challenges forced me to use, because I didn't want to set them apart or to make them. The idea was to have the class feeling as a group. So in the first part of the very first steps of creating this questionnaire were related to this, to selecting the correct questions that would give me the information that I needed in order to have a general idea of the class perceptions of how they feel when they work in group, and how they feel when they work alone. Because having only questions regarding group work may lead in the incorrect direction, as it was a closed-ended question. So having this sent to the experts and then having their feedback, I didn't really change the questions, even though I have some advice of the experts, because the advices were related to the formulation of the questions, but the support of their advice was related to the comprehension or how the formality of the questions. And I really thought, because the percentage of acceptance of all questions was above the 75%. So I thought that having this very high percentage of acceptance of the questions and these advices for changes related to modifications because of formality, I didn't want to change it because I was appealing and trying to achieve the correct response and answer for the students. So basically, after having these experts, having these experts giving me their advice, I didn't change the questionnaire at all. So I just use them as support.
Finally, Tomás, I got a bit lost when you talked about the analysis and conclusions. So can you
analysis and conclusions, like here?
Probably here.
Because then I want to do the objectives.
Yeah, I remember that you mentioned that you analyzed by triangulation, like you triangulated the data. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, what can you tell us about your analysis, like your interpretation of the data after triangulation, and the conclusions for your study regarding the question that you had?
Yes, I was very brief in this. Okay, first, the direct observation. I'm going to speak a little bit about the 3 steps. The direct observation, as I mentioned, it was very objective. The observations, I tried not to participate in any of the observations, even though sometimes I was directly involved in them. I tried not to put of myself in the correction of the attitudes of the students, because if I was part of the problem, from what I'm saying, because of the students were being distracted by my presence, I didn't want to force them to like don't pay attention to me working. I tried to answer them as distant as possible, in order to have them like working again, but without directly telling them work. So those my observations were pointed in that way. So in order to have in consideration all of the internal and external factors that may also distract the students, not only the distribution, even though the main focus was on the distribution of the students. And regarding the direct quotes, of course, we're taking from the theory, as it was mentioned I can't remember any direct quotes. Well, the closed-ended questionnaire, as was mentioned, passed through this complete process, and then I came to this. The questions were, for example, I feel more comfortable when working in groups. While being in my group, I feel more likely to participate in the class. My group mates foster me to participate more in the class. While in my group, I get more distracted. And finally, I rather working alone. The idea was of these questions for the students to give their personal opinion in sort of a way, because it's not personal if it is a closed-ended question. And finally, the triangulation of this information was done in. I tried to use an action code, but I totally failed. It was very complex for me because I didn't really know how to use it. So basically, what I did was taking the observations, I contrasted them with the students' general perceptions using a graph, because as this information was anonymous, I didn't have like all the students. So the idea was not to separate the information in like, for example, all the high proficiency students like the working groups. The idea was to have a general idea of the class about this information. So I put all of this in a graph, and this information was contrasted with the direct observations. Like if students, for example, the whole class said that we like working in groups, but in the observations I see that students keep fighting and keep being distracted by their peers, it wouldn't be like correct. But what it was shown in the direct observations was that the main distractions of the students were not related to the students in the same groups, but from external factors, as the teachers, which the researcher, as are the other students going outside of the class, or other factors that may not be related directly to the distribution of the students. And this was also supported by the closed-ended questionnaire, which showed that students, rather working in groups, they feel more comfortable and more willing to participate in groups. And as it also was shown by the the direct observations, students tend to participate and are more willing to participate when in groups rather than when in individual work or individual line formation in the class. Because one day we have the students working in the normal class, the Chilean class with the files, lines. I think that's my main conclusion. Where the question was answered in the sense of that students. Distribution does not affect directly their participation in the class, and group work does motivate students to participate more in the classes.
Thank you very much. Before you go, I need your solution.
When are the engagements?
In January?
January the 1st. When I have to kill you or... when will I don't know what, I don't want the market, I just want to know the
next Monday you will see the results. Okay. By next Monday, be earlier, but by next Monday.
Thank you very much.